Settle gently into the quiet and let your eyes grow heavy as we follow the soft music of Orpheus through ancient Greece. Tonight, there is no need to hurry and nothing to fear. Only a calm voice, a patient song, and the slow movement of myth through moonlit hills, silent groves, and shadowed paths. Rest now and let the old story unfold peacefully. In the gentle hills of ancient Thrace, where rivers moved with patient rhythm and forests welcomed quiet winds, the story of Orpheus began. Ancient traditions remember him as the son of the muse Calliope, guardian of beautiful poetry, while many also name the radiant god Apollo as his father. Surrounded by songs long before he could speak, Orpheus belonged to a world where music was not only entertainment but a graceful thread connecting people, nature, and the divine. His earliest days are remembered not through loud celebrations, but through peaceful images of calm valleys, distant birds, and soft morning light resting upon the earth. Calliope, foremost among the muses, represented the noble power of inspired verse. In Greek imagination, she carried wisdom with gentle confidence rather than force. As Orpheus grew beneath her quiet influence, every melody seemed to carry meaning beyond ordinary sound. The flowing streams, the movement of leaves, and the steady rhythm of distant waves became part of an invisible lesson. Nothing hurried. The world itself appeared willing to teach, offering patient harmony instead of commands, allowing beauty to unfold naturally with every passing season. Those who honored Apollo believed that music carried order into the world. His gifts encouraged balance, thoughtful expression, and clear understanding. If Orpheus inherited even a small measure of that divine harmony, it was enough to shape an extraordinary life. Rather than seeking glory through battle or conquest, he would become known for quiet mastery. His strength would rest in melody, where gentle sounds could calm troubled hearts and remind listeners of the peaceful patterns hidden within the changing world. In the oldest Greek imagination, music was closely tied to memory and sacred tradition. Songs preserved family histories, honored the gods, and accompanied festivals throughout the seasons. Before written words became common, melodies carried stories safely from one generation to another. Orpheus entered this living tradition with unusual grace. Every note he would later play belonged to a much older current flowing quietly through Greek culture, connecting villages, temples, and travelers beneath the same wide heavens. The instrument most closely linked to Orpheus was the lyre, a symbol of harmony throughout Greek mythology. Its clear voice reflected balance rather than excess, inviting careful listening instead of excitement. Ancient storytellers imagined its tones floating softly across valleys and rivers, blending with the sounds of nature itself. The lyre was never simply an object of craftsmanship. It represented thoughtful order, gentle beauty, and the quiet possibility that music could bring distant hearts into peaceful agreement without a single harsh word. Many traditions tell that Apollo presented the young Orpheus with a lyre, recognizing the remarkable promise within him. The gift carried more than polished wood and carefully stretched strings. It offered a way of understanding the world through careful listening. Every melody became an invitation to notice hidden harmony already present in mountains, forests, rivers, and stars. Rather than changing nature, the music revealed its quiet order, allowing listeners to feel gently included within something timeless. After receiving the lyre, Orpheus devoted himself to patient practice. Ancient legends rarely describe hurried progress. Instead, they suggest a life shaped by steady attention, where every gentle note deepened both skill and understanding. Day after day, melodies settled into memory as naturally as flowing water follows its familiar course. His music grew not through competition, but through peaceful dedication, reflecting the calm rhythm that surrounded him from the beginning of his life. Greek poets often imagined that the natural world responded to Orpheus with remarkable serenity. Trees seemed to lean closer, rivers flowed with quiet patience, and even wild creatures became calm in the presence of his music. These images were not simply tales of magic. They reflected an ancient hope that harmony could soften division and restore peaceful balance. Through Orpheus, music became a gentle language shared by all living things beneath the wide sky. Unlike many celebrated heroes, Orpheus carried no famous shield and sought no battlefield victories. His reputation grew through kindness expressed in melody rather than strength displayed through conflict. In Greek thought, this made him unusual but deeply respected. His quiet path suggested another form of greatness, one measured not by triumph over others, but by the ability to inspire peace wherever gentle music was welcomed. Such stories remain treasured across generations for their calm wisdom. As Orpheus matured, the lyre became almost inseparable from his identity. It represented careful listening, patient learning, and thoughtful expression. Every performance honored the gift first received and the traditions carried by the muses. His music was imagined as something that belonged equally to earth and heaven, bridging ordinary life with sacred inspiration. In this quiet balance, listeners found comfort rather than spectacle, allowing melodies to settle softly into memory. The landscapes of Thrace remained an important companion throughout these early traditions. Gentle rivers reflected changing light, forests offered cool shade, and distant mountains stood with timeless stillness. Ancient storytellers often placed Orpheus within these peaceful settings because nature itself seemed to echo the calm qualities of his music. The surrounding world became more than scenery. It served as a quiet partner, answering melody with silence, movement, and enduring beauty. For the ancient Greeks, the lyre symbolized more than artistic talent. It reflected moderation, wisdom, and the careful balance that allowed communities to flourish. By placing the instrument into Orpheus's hands, myth joined personal destiny with larger cultural ideals. Music became a gentle reminder that lasting influence often grows from patience instead of force. Such themes continued to resonate wherever stories of Orpheus were quietly shared around hearths and sanctuaries. The earliest chapters of Orpheus's life carry very little noise. Instead, they unfold with peaceful certainty, guided by divine inspiration, loving tradition, and quiet devotion to music. Long before his later adventures, these calm beginnings shaped the character remembered throughout Greek mythology. The gentle child of Calliope, blessed with Apollo's gift, learned first to listen. From careful listening came melody, and from melody came the enduring memory of harmony itself. As evening settled across the imagined landscapes of Greece, the quiet image of the young musician remained. A simple lyre rested nearby, carrying the promise of songs that would one day travel far beyond the hills of Thrace. Yet in these earliest moments, everything was still, gentle, and unhurried. The gift had been received, the foundations quietly laid, and the peaceful rhythm of Orpheus's remarkable life had begun with calm grace beneath the patient sky. Orpheus often wandered where clear rivers moved without haste, carrying reflections of pale clouds and quiet hills. The gentle rhythm of flowing water became a companion rather than an audience. Ancient storytellers imagined that his lyre never struggled against the sound of the current. Instead, each note settled softly beside it, as though music and water had always belonged together. The banks of Greece offered cool shade, smooth pebbles, and reeds that swayed with every breeze. In those peaceful places, the world seemed to breathe in long, even measures, allowing every melody to rest naturally within the landscape. The forests welcomed Orpheus with quiet patience. Tall pines, Ancient oaks and silver-leaved olive trees stood as silent companions while his melodies drifted beneath their branches. Greek tradition often tells that the trees themselves leaned closer, not through sudden magic, but with the graceful certainty of a tale repeated across generations. Their roots remained deep within the earth while their leaves whispered overhead, creating a gentle harmony with the lyre. Every breeze carried both birdsong and music together, making the woodland feel less like a wilderness and more like a peaceful sanctuary shaped by calm attention. Even the stones became part of Orpheus' quiet legend. Greek myth speaks of rocks that seem to draw nearer, not with violence or spectacle, but with the calm willingness found only in stories. Their silence matched the steady rhythm of the earth itself. Resting among them, Orpheus filled open valleys with melodies that asked for nothing and disturbed nothing. The stones remained symbols of endurance, shaped by countless seasons before his arrival and destined to remain long afterward. His songs simply shared a brief moment with their ancient stillness before drifting gently into memory. The rivers of ancient Greece carried more than water. They marked journeys, nourished fields, and inspired poets who saw gentle meaning in every current. As Orpheus walked beside them, the sound of his lyre blended naturally with the flowing stream. Nothing hurried forward. Fish slipped beneath the surface, reeds bowed softly, and distant birds crossed the open sky. His music seemed perfectly suited to places where movement never ceased, yet never rushed. In these quiet landscapes, every small sound found its place, joining together with remarkable ease beneath the wide light of the Mediterranean world. Many stories describe animals gathering peacefully around Orpheus while he played. The images are gentle rather than dramatic. Deer stood quietly beneath trees, birds rested upon branches, and small creatures paused without fear. These scenes expressed the ancient belief that true harmony reached beyond human ears. Music became a language shared across the natural world, where no spoken words were needed. The calm presence of living creatures reflected the balance that Greek storytellers admired, suggesting that beauty could briefly soften the ordinary distance between people, animals, forests, and open fields beneath the changing sky. Orpheus inherited remarkable musical gifts, yet his greatest strength was often described as gentleness rather than power. His lyre did not command the landscape. Instead, it revealed the quiet harmony already resting within it. Hills echoed softly, valleys carried lingering notes, and streams continued their patient courses unchanged. Ancient listeners imagined that every melody respected the natural order instead of interrupting it. This peaceful relationship between musician and landscape became one of the lasting qualities of his legend, reminding later generations that beauty often grows strongest where patience and simplicity remain together. Morning light often appears in Greek imagination as a gentle unveiling rather than a sudden arrival. It is easy to picture Orpheus greeting such hours with calm melodies that rose alongside the first warmth of day. Dew lingered upon grasses, while distant hills slowly brightened beneath the sun. The air carried freshness untouched by midday heat. His songs fit naturally within these peaceful beginnings, neither louder nor softer than the waking countryside itself. Every note seemed content simply to exist alongside birds, water, and wind, asking only for the quiet passage of another tranquil morning. As daylight softened toward evening, the colors of Greece became quieter still. Golden light rested upon stone paths, riverbanks, and distant groves before fading into gentle blue. Orpheus' music belonged equally to these calm transitions. Ancient myths rarely describe hurried endings in these moments. Instead, melodies gradually settled into silence, much as daylight slowly yielded to approaching night. The peaceful rhythm of evening invited reflection without sorrow. Nature accepted every passing hour with remarkable grace, and the stories surrounding Orpheus often shared that same quiet acceptance of time unfolding at its own steady pace. The lyre itself carried deep meaning within Greek culture. It represented learning, poetry, balance, and thoughtful expression. In Orpheus' hands, the instrument became a symbol of peaceful order woven gently through the world. Each string answered another with measured harmony, creating melodies that felt complete without excess. Ancient audiences understood that skill required patience as much as inspiration. The calm discipline of music reflected the wider harmony admired throughout Greek thought, where beauty emerged not from noise or speed, but from careful balance between every sound and every moment of silence. Mountain valleys offered broad spaces where even the quietest melodies could travel with remarkable clarity. Orpheus was imagined walking these peaceful routes, surrounded by distant cliffs and open skies. His songs did not seek to fill every corner of the landscape. Instead, they floated gently through the still air before fading naturally into silence. Echoes returned slowly from rocky slopes, becoming part of the music rather than repeating it exactly. The mountains seemed less like barriers than patient listeners, holding each note for a brief moment before releasing it back into the calm afternoon. Olive groves stretched across many regions of ancient Greece, offering shade, quiet fragrance, and a sense of enduring peace. These familiar landscapes suited the gentle spirit of Orpheus' stories. Twisted trunks reflected centuries of patient growth, while silver-green leaves shimmered softly in the breeze. Nothing within the grove appeared hurried. Light moved gradually across the ground, and birds settled comfortably among the branches. Music imagined in such a place naturally became slower and calmer, blending with the timeless character of trees that had quietly witnessed countless generations before and after every legend. Ancient poets often blurred the boundary between the visible world and the world of imagination. When they described rivers listening or stones responding, they were expressing the deep harmony they believed could exist between humanity and nature. Orpheus became the perfect figure for this poetic vision. His music reminded listeners that landscapes could be understood not merely as scenery, but as companions in quiet reflection. Every hill, stream, and tree carried symbolic presence within the stories, inviting peaceful contemplation without demanding certainty or explanation, beyond the gentle language of myth itself. Long after each melody faded, the places connected with Orpheus remained unchanged. Rivers continued their patient flow toward the sea. Trees welcomed each returning season with fresh leaves and quiet shade. Stones rested exactly where countless years had placed them. His songs became part of memory rather than possession, lingering only in the imagination of those who cherished the old stories. This gentle impermanence gives the myth much of its lasting comfort. Music may pass, yet the peaceful landscapes that inspired it continue offering calm to every generation that remembers them. In the enduring tradition of Greek mythology, Orpheus is remembered not only for extraordinary skill, but also for the quiet atmosphere surrounding his music. Beside rivers, beneath trees, and among ancient stones, harmony appeared as something already present within the world, waiting only to be noticed. His gentle melodies reflected the measured pace of nature itself, where flowing water, steady earth, and open skies remained faithful to their timeless rhythms. The stories leave behind an image of lasting serenity, inviting the mind to rest within landscapes where every sound gradually returns to peaceful silence. In the quiet hills of ancient Greece, Eurydice is often imagined walking through open meadows where soft grasses sway beneath a gentle breeze. Although the surviving myths tell little about her early life, later storytellers remember her as a graceful nymph whose days belonged to peaceful landscapes, flowing streams, and the quiet rhythm of the seasons. Morning light settled over wildflowers, while distant mountains rested beneath clear skies. Birds crossed the air without haste, and every path seemed shaped by nature rather than by human hands. The calm countryside became a fitting place for a figure whose story would later become one of mythology's most enduring expressions of love and remembrance. The meadows themselves reflected the harmony that many Greeks associated with the natural world. Olive trees stood at comfortable distances from one another, while small groves offered patches of cool shade through the warm afternoons. Gentle winds carried the fragrance of thyme, sage, and blooming herbs across the hillsides. Eurydice moved through these familiar places with quiet ease, becoming part of the landscape rather than standing apart from it. Her presence belonged to the slow passage of daylight, where each season returned with dependable rhythm, and every flowering plant reminded observers that growth and renewal quietly shaped the lives of both nature and humankind. Ancient poets often linked nymphs with springs, forests, and fertile valleys, giving them a peaceful role within the living landscape. Eurydice is commonly remembered in this gentle tradition, closely connected with places where water flowed clearly over smooth stones and birds nested among reeds. Nothing in these quiet settings suggested urgency or conflict. Instead, every feature reflected patience and continuity. Streams continued their course toward larger rivers, flowers opened beneath the sun, and evening slowly replaced the brightness of day. Such surroundings offered a natural setting for the calm happiness that later traditions imagined before sorrow entered her story. It was within this peaceful world that Eurydice came to know Orpheus, whose music carried unusual gentleness through the valleys. Greek mythology describes Orpheus as the greatest musician among mortals, gifted with songs capable of calming wild creatures and softening even stones. His melodies did not disturb the quiet landscape but blended with it, joining the rustling leaves, distant birds, and flowing water. The harmony between music and nature reflected an important Greek idea that beauty could exist without excess. In these imagined days together, the countryside became not simply a place to travel, but a companion to every quiet note that drifted across the hills. The marriage of Orpheus and Eurydice is remembered as a union filled with affection rather than grandeur. Ancient stories focus less on ceremonies than on the closeness shared between the two. Their happiness seemed rooted in simple moments, surrounded by open fields and peaceful skies instead of magnificent palaces. In the gentle imagination of later generations, their days unfolded with an unhurried rhythm, shaped by music, sunlight, and the familiar paths of rural Greece. Such quiet scenes create a lasting contrast with the events that would eventually follow, allowing the early chapters of their lives to remain wrapped in calm and gentle light. The landscapes of ancient Greece often inspired reflection through their balanced beauty. Rocky slopes met fertile valleys, while distant seas shimmered beyond low hills. Eurydice belonged naturally within this world of gentle contrasts. The earth provided flowers in spring, ripe fruit in summer, golden fields in autumn, and peaceful stillness during winter. Every season carried its own quiet gift without disturbing the greater harmony of the land. The steady movement of time encouraged patience rather than haste, reminding listeners that the ancient Greeks often found meaning not only in heroic deeds, but also in the quiet endurance of ordinary days. In Greek tradition, the countryside was never empty. Invisible spirits, sacred groves, and quiet shrines gently connected the human world with the divine. Eurydice's peaceful surroundings reflected this belief without requiring dramatic signs or extraordinary events. A simple spring might honor a local nymph, while an ancient oak could quietly remind travelers of divine presence. Such places encouraged respectful attention rather than fear. Life unfolded beneath the unseen care of the gods, whose influence was often felt through the dependable order of nature itself. Calm landscapes, therefore, became expressions of sacred balance woven into everyday experience. As the sun slowly crossed the sky, long shadows stretched across the grasses without interrupting the peaceful atmosphere. Evening brought softer colors as warm light settled over distant hills and gentle breezes cooled the fields. Eurydice's world became quieter still, with birds returning to their nests and insects filling the air with delicate sounds. Such transitions between day and night carried deep familiarity for generations living close to nature. The changing light reminded observers that beauty often arrived through gradual moments, almost unnoticed, leaving behind a sense of calm that lingered well into the coming darkness. The ancient Greeks valued music not only for celebration, but also for its ability to shape character and restore inner balance. Orpheus represented this ideal more perfectly than any other figure in mythology. As Eurydice shared life beside him, music became part of the quiet landscape itself. Gentle melodies seemed to travel naturally over hillsides and across streams, joining the sounds already present in the countryside. Rather than competing with nature, the lyre completed it. Harmony existed between voice, instrument, and earth, creating an atmosphere remembered long after the earliest versions of the myth were first told. Wildflowers covered the meadows with changing colors throughout the warmer months. Poppies, daisies, and fragrant herbs appeared in quiet succession, each following the steady rhythm of the seasons. Eurydice walked among these blossoms as part of a landscape that asked for nothing except gentle attention. The simplicity of these scenes has allowed generations to imagine her life before loss with unusual tenderness. There is little need for elaborate detail. Open skies, flowering fields, and peaceful silence together express the calm foundation upon which the myth gently begins before later chapters carry it into deeper reflection. Many surviving myths leave wide spaces where later imagination quietly settles. Eurydice's early days remain one of those peaceful spaces. Ancient authors devoted greater attention to Orpheus and his remarkable journey. Yet the quiet absence of detail has encouraged centuries of artists and poets to picture gentle mornings, shaded paths, and tranquil fields surrounding her life. These imagined scenes remain faithful to the natural spirit of Greek landscapes, even while adding thoughtful warmth. Silence itself becomes part of the story, allowing calm places to speak through flowing water, distant birds, and softly moving grass. Throughout Greek mythology, nature often mirrors human experience without speaking directly. Calm valleys suggest peace, while changing seasons quietly reflect the passage of life. Eurydice's meadows therefore become more than beautiful scenery. They offer a gentle reminder that happiness can exist in ordinary places, shaped by familiar routines and shared companionship. The ancient landscape carries no urgency. Instead, it encourages stillness, allowing every breeze across the grasses and every distant mountain to remain exactly as they are. Such quiet permanence gives lasting comfort within a story remembered across countless generations. Before sorrow touched the tale, Eurydice belonged entirely to the living world of sunlight, flowers, and quiet streams. Her memory continues to be surrounded by these gentle images because they reveal the precious simplicity that Greek myth often preserves before great change arrives. Listeners are invited to linger within these peaceful meadows, where music, nature, and affection exist together without strain. The land itself seems to breathe slowly beneath the open sky, holding every path, every blossom, and every quiet afternoon within a timeless calm that remains one of the most beautiful settings in ancient mythology. As twilight settled softly over the countryside, the colors of the fields gradually faded into gentle shades of silver and blue. Stars appeared one by one above the hills, while the familiar outlines of olive trees rested peacefully against the darkening sky. Eurydice's world, as remembered through myth and later imagination, remained filled with quiet order and natural grace. Long before the famous descent into the underworld, there was this calm beginning, rooted in simple beauty. The peaceful meadows of ancient Greece continue to offer a place where memory lingers gently, accompanied by silence, distant birdsong, and the enduring harmony of nature. In the quiet valleys of ancient Thrace, the days seem to move with the patient rhythm of flowing water and soft winds through tall grasses. Orpheus, whose music was said to calm wild creatures and gentle rivers alike, came to the joyful season of his wedding. His bride was Eurydice, remembered in Greek tradition for her grace and peaceful spirit. The celebration belonged less to noisy feasting than to the quiet promise of shared days beneath familiar skies. Ancient poets imagined the marriage as a union blessed by nature itself, where song, sunlight, and simple hope rested together for a little while. The wedding day unfolded beneath a broad sky, where the warm light of morning settled gently across fields and distant forests. Orpheus carried no weapon, only the quiet gift that had shaped his life since childhood, the music of his lyre. Every careful note seemed to belong naturally to the landscape, joining birdsong and the slow murmur of streams. Greek storytellers often described harmony as something shared between people and the living world, and the melodies of Orpheus reflected that ancient idea with remarkable tenderness. For a brief time, joy seemed as steady as the turning of the seasons. In many versions of the myth, divine figures watched over important moments without always changing what fate would bring. The gods belonged to a world where beauty and sorrow often stood close together, each following its own ancient order. The wedding therefore carried a peaceful brightness touched by quiet solemnity, as though every happy beginning also remembered the passage of time. Such balance was familiar to Greek thought, where even moments of celebration remained connected to the larger patterns governing nature, destiny, and human life. Nothing hurried, and everything seemed wrapped in calm expectation. After the ceremonies, the countryside returned to its familiar stillness. Gentle breezes moved among flowers, while shaded paths invited slow walks beneath quiet trees. Eurydice wandered through this peaceful landscape, surrounded by the ordinary beauty that ancient poets loved to describe. There was no sense of struggle in the earth itself, only the quiet rhythm of leaves, sunlight, and distant hills. The myth pauses here with remarkable simplicity, allowing the calm of the natural world to settle before events changed. The silence of the countryside became part of the story just as surely as any spoken word. Greek tradition tells that Eurydice unexpectedly stepped upon a hidden serpent. The moment arrived without noise or spectacle, reflecting the ancient understanding that life could change quietly and without warning. The serpent itself was not portrayed as driven by anger, but simply followed its own place within nature. The bite brought swift misfortune, and the peaceful afternoon gradually became filled with stillness instead of celebration. Ancient storytellers described this change with restraint, allowing gentle sorrow rather than dramatic violence to carry the weight of the event. The calm landscape remained unchanged, even as human happiness faded. As Eurydice's life gently slipped away, the songs that had filled the wedding day seemed to fade into memory. Orpheus could offer music to forests, rivers, and even wild animals, yet no melody could reverse the quiet passage that Greek myth assigned to every mortal life. His gift remained beautiful, but it did not stand outside the larger order watched over by the gods. Ancient audiences understood this with quiet acceptance, recognizing that extraordinary talents existed alongside limits that even the greatest musicians could not cross. The valley itself remained peaceful. Birds continued their slow flights across the open sky, streams followed their familiar courses, and distant mountains stood unchanged. Greek myths often contrast the steady calm of nature with the changing fortunes of human lives. The earth neither hurried nor paused, continuing its timeless rhythm while sorrow quietly entered the heart of one musician. This gentle contrast gives the story much of its lasting beauty. Loss arrives without disturbing the wider harmony of the world, reminding listeners of the enduring balance imagined by ancient poets. Orpheus accepted the first quiet hours of grief without anger toward the landscape that had once echoed with joyful music. Ancient sources remember him as deeply devoted to Eurydice, and that devotion became the center of the myth. His sorrow was expressed not through loud cries, but through music carrying gentle longing across valleys and forests. The lyre remained his faithful companion, transforming personal sadness into melodies that seemed understandable even to trees and stones. In Greek imagination, music possessed the rare ability to express emotions beyond ordinary speech. The quiet that followed the wedding became a different kind of silence. It was no longer the peaceful pause between songs, but the stillness that comes after something precious has ended. Ancient listeners would have recognized this gentle shift, for many Greek myths speak softly about the passing nature of earthly happiness. Joy was never considered false because it ended. Instead, its brief presence made it all the more meaningful. The memory of shared moments remained as enduring as the melodies that Orpheus carried within his heart. In the traditions surrounding Orpheus, music was never merely entertainment. It reflected harmony, order, memory, and the unseen connections between living beings. After Eurydice's passing, every familiar melody naturally carried a quieter meaning. The same strings, the same careful hands, and the same gentle voice now expressed remembrance instead of celebration. Greek myth often allows familiar things to remain outwardly unchanged, while their inner meaning transforms. This quiet transformation gives the story remarkable emotional depth, without abandoning its calm and measured pace. The ancient Greeks often imagined death not as chaos, but as part of a larger cosmic order. Mortals eventually followed the same peaceful path walked by countless generations before them. Within that understanding, Eurydice's passing became both deeply personal and universally familiar. The sorrow belonged to Orpheus alone, yet the pattern belonged to every human life. Such ideas gave the myth a quiet dignity. Even in grief, the world remained governed by rhythms older than memory, inviting reflection instead of despair. As evening settled across Thrace, the brightness of the wedding day seemed to drift gently into memory like fading sunlight over distant fields. The air grew calm, and every sound appeared softer than before. Ancient storytellers rarely hurried through moments like these, allowing silence itself to become part of the narrative. The absence of joyful music spoke as clearly as any melody. In that peaceful stillness, remembrance quietly replaced celebration, and love continued to exist even without the presence that had inspired it. The story at this point becomes less about celebration and more about faithful remembrance. Orpheus remained the same gifted musician admired by gods, mortals, and nature alike, yet his songs now carried gentle echoes of loss. Ancient poets often suggested that true beauty grows deeper when touched by compassion and memory. His music therefore gained a quiet richness that reflected both love and absence without bitterness. Every note became an offering to what had once been shared beneath peaceful skies. The gentle wedding had ended, leaving behind memories as calm as still water reflecting the evening sky. What remained was not noise but quiet devotion, preserved in song and carried through generations of storytellers. Greek mythology remembers this turning point with remarkable restraint, allowing peaceful reflection to stand beside human sorrow. The calm landscapes, the patient rivers, and the enduring mountains witnessed both happiness and silence without changing their timeless rhythm. Within that enduring world, the memory of Orpheus and Eurydice continued to rest like a soft melody lingering after the final note. After the quiet farewell to the living world, Orpheus began the ancient road that led beneath the earth. Greek tradition imagined the entrance to the realm of the dead in distant, shadowed places, where ordinary journeys slowly came to an end. His steps were careful rather than hurried, guided not by anger or pride, but by enduring devotion. The familiar colors of hills and trees gradually softened into gentle shades of stone and stillness. Even the wind seemed to settle into a slower rhythm. Each measured step became part of a peaceful procession, as though the earth itself understood the calm purpose carried within his heart. The path descended with quiet patience, leaving behind bright meadows and open skies. Ancient poets often described the border between worlds as a place where sound became gentle and movement lost its urgency. Orpheus carried his lyre close beside him, not as a weapon or a shield, but as a faithful companion. The polished wood reflected the last traces of daylight before softer shadows gathered around the road. Nothing rushed him forward. The journey unfolded at its own peaceful pace, allowing silence and memory to walk together with every slow and deliberate step. Far below the familiar world, the air grew cool and remarkably still. The ancient Greeks imagined this realm as orderly rather than chaotic, governed by timeless laws that every soul eventually encountered. Orpheus accepted each change in the landscape with quiet respect. His thoughts rested gently upon Eurydice, whose memory remained bright even where sunlight no longer reached. Around him, stone walls and silent passages suggested great age instead of fear. The peaceful weight of countless generations seemed to rest within the earth, preserved in calm silence beyond the passing seasons above. As he continued onward, the echoes of his footsteps blended softly with the quiet around him. The underworld in Greek mythology was not merely a place of darkness, but a kingdom with its own enduring order and balance. Every traveler who entered did so beneath ancient customs older than cities and kings. Orpheus moved without resistance to these traditions, carrying only kindness, patience, and music. His steady breathing matched the peaceful rhythm of the journey, creating the feeling that every moment belonged naturally within the timeless landscape unfolding before him. Eventually, a quiet river appeared, flowing without haste through the dim landscape. Greek tradition tells of several rivers surrounding the realm of the dead, each carrying its own meaning within the myths. Their waters marked gentle boundaries between different parts of existence rather than violent divisions. Orpheus paused with quiet reverence before continuing. The smooth current reflected faint light like polished stone beneath a cloudy sky. Everything seemed settled into perfect stillness, as though the river had been flowing peacefully since the earliest days remembered by the poets. The quiet atmosphere encouraged reflection more than sorrow. Orpheus remembered the songs once shared beneath living trees, where birds answered gentle melodies and streams carried music through the valleys. Those memories remained unchanged, despite the different landscapes surrounding him now. The Greeks often saw memory as something precious, capable of preserving beauty across great distances and passing years. Holding those thoughts gently within himself, Orpheus continued with calm determination. Every remembered melody became another peaceful companion along the long descent through the silent kingdom below the earth. The deeper passages revealed broad chambers carved by time beyond human memory. Great stone arches rose naturally overhead, creating vast spaces where quiet echoed gently from wall to wall. Orpheus neither hurried nor lingered. His journey reflected the patience often found throughout Greek stories, where lasting devotion proved stronger than restless action. Even without speaking, he carried an atmosphere of calm purpose. The silence surrounding him was not empty. Instead, it felt complete, allowing every careful footstep to settle peacefully into the ancient halls beneath the world of sunlight. At times, Orpheus allowed a few gentle notes to rise from the strings of his lyre. The melodies were quiet and restrained, filling the still air without disturbing it. Greek traditions celebrated music as a gift capable of bringing harmony to both nature and the human spirit. Here, beneath the earth, those same gentle sounds seemed perfectly suited to the calm surroundings. Rather than overcoming silence, the music rested beside it, blending softly into the timeless atmosphere that surrounded every step of his peaceful journey. The further he traveled, the more distant the living world became. Yet Orpheus did not lose himself in sadness. His quiet hope remained balanced by respect for the ancient order governing every part of the underworld. Greek myths often present even extraordinary journeys as moments of acceptance as much as courage. The road ahead remained steady beneath his feet, inviting calm attention rather than anxious expectation. Each gentle breath and measured step became part of a larger rhythm that stretched peacefully across both the worlds of the living and the dead. The kingdom below possessed its own quiet beauty. Smooth rock, silent waters, and soft shadows formed a landscape unlike any beneath the open sky. Nothing here competed for attention. Every feature seemed content simply to exist within its timeless place. Orpheus observed these surroundings with calm humility, recognizing that he walked through one of the oldest realms imagined by Greek storytellers. The simplicity of the landscape encouraged stillness of mind, allowing peaceful contemplation to accompany each unhurried step along the ancient route. As the journey continued, the boundaries between sound and silence seemed increasingly delicate. The faint notes of the lyre lingered briefly before fading into the calm air. Ancient listeners may have imagined such moments as reminders that harmony could exist even in places touched by sorrow. Orpheus asked nothing of the earth around him except permission to continue. His quiet presence reflected gentleness more than struggle. In that enduring silence, every melody became an offering of peace carried carefully through the ancient kingdom beneath the hills of Greece. There was dignity in the slow pace of the descent. Greek myths often value endurance expressed through patience rather than speed. Orpheus embodied this gentle quality with every careful movement. He neither resisted the quiet landscape nor surrendered to despair. Instead, he walked as one honoring both love and the enduring customs of the gods. Around him, the ancient realm remained calm and unchanged, preserving its peaceful stillness through ages beyond counting. The long road itself became part of the story, steady and serene beneath his feet. The shadows surrounding Orpheus were soft rather than threatening, shaped by distance instead of fear. Greek poets often describe the underworld with solemn restraint, emphasizing permanence more than terror. Within that timeless setting, Orpheus carried the gentle light of memory. His devotion to Eurydice remained quiet and unwavering, illuminating his purpose without disturbing the silence around him. Every calm breath reflected trust in music, patience, and kindness. These simple companions stayed beside him as faithfully as the lyre resting against his shoulder during the long descent. By the time the path reached the deeper halls of the underworld, Orpheus had fully entered a place beyond ordinary seasons and passing days. The peaceful rhythm of his journey remained unchanged from the first step to the last. Love, memory, and music accompanied him with quiet steadiness, forming a gentle thread through the silent kingdom of the dead. The ancient earth surrounded him in perfect stillness, while every measured footstep honored the enduring harmony that Greek myth so often placed beside even the deepest sorrow. Long before the quiet descent toward the realm beneath the earth, Orpheus was already known for a gift that seemed older than memory itself. Ancient poets described his music as something that settled gently over hills, streams, and groves, bringing harmony rather than excitement. His lyre, traditionally said to have been connected with Apollo and the Muses, became a symbol of balance between skill and inspiration. Each melody unfolded with patient care, never hurried, allowing every note to rest where it naturally belonged, like light lingering across calm morning stones. The lyre itself carried deep meaning in Greek tradition. More than an instrument, it reflected the belief that order could be expressed through sound. Stories often connected beautiful music with wisdom, moderation, and respect for the divine. Orpheus became the finest example of this idea, shaping melodies that reflected the quiet rhythms of the natural world. Gentle breezes, distant birds, and flowing rivers seemed almost to recognize the same peaceful pattern that his careful playing expressed without effort or display. The Muses, daughters of Zeus and Mnemosyne, were remembered as guardians of every creative art. They inspired poetry, song, history, and thoughtful reflection. Ancient tradition often placed Orpheus close to their influence, suggesting that his music carried traces of their quiet guidance. Inspiration was not imagined as sudden brilliance alone, but as steady companionship with memory, learning, and careful attention. In that gentle understanding, every melody became an offering shaped by patience rather than ambition. Apollo, whose domains included music, poetry, and harmony, represented measured beauty rather than excess. The stories surrounding Orpheus reflected many of these same qualities. His songs were remembered for restoring calm, encouraging reflection, and revealing hidden order within ordinary moments. Instead of overpowering the listener, the melodies seemed to invite quiet attention. Even silence held value between the notes, allowing each phrase to settle naturally before another began, much like the steady movement of daylight across ancient temples. Ancient Greek landscapes formed a gentle backdrop for many tales of music. Olive trees stretched across low hills, streams wound through shaded valleys, and distant mountains framed quiet horizons. In such places, Orpheus was imagined carrying his lyre from one peaceful setting to another. Nature did not merely surround his songs. It became part of them, as if every breeze, leaf, and flowing current participated in the same calm rhythm that guided both traveler and melody together. Many later writers described animals gathering peacefully wherever Orpheus performed. Although these accounts belong to the poetic tradition rather than historical observation, they reveal how the Greeks imagined perfect harmony. Wildness did not disappear. Instead, it rested for a little while beside beauty. Such stories expressed hope that music could soften fear without denying the natural order. Even symbolic scenes carried an atmosphere of quiet agreement rather than dramatic transformation or spectacle. The Greeks often viewed music as part of education and character, not simply entertainment. Learning to appreciate rhythm and melody encouraged balance within the mind and respect within the community. Orpheus represented the highest expression of that ideal. His legendary reputation suggested that careful listening could become a form of wisdom. Every gentle phrase reminded audiences that beauty often grows slowly, shaped through practice, patience, and quiet devotion rather than sudden achievement. Memory occupied a special place within Greek thought. Songs carried stories across generations before many were written down. A melody could preserve the names of heroes, the blessings of the gods, and the customs of distant ancestors. Orpheus belonged to this living tradition of remembrance. His music was imagined not only as beautiful sound, but also as a careful vessel carrying ancient knowledge from one peaceful gathering to the next with quiet continuity. Temples dedicated to Apollo often stood where mountain light met open valleys. Their measured proportions reflected the same search for harmony celebrated in music. Columns rose with calm regularity, encouraging thoughtful movement rather than haste. Whether Orpheus truly visited such sacred places belongs to legend, yet the association feels natural within Greek imagination. Music, architecture, and worship all sought balance, inviting the mind toward gentle reflection instead of restless distraction. As Orpheus traveled, each peaceful landscape became another quiet stage. The Greeks rarely separated art from the wider world around them. Hills, forests, rivers, and distant coastlines all possessed their own sacred presence through the gods connected with each place. A musician moving through these regions carried respect as well as melody. Every careful step acknowledged that beauty existed not only in song, but also in the enduring landscape that received it with patient silence. The story of Orpheus would later become closely linked with sorrow and remarkable courage, yet those later events rested upon years of quiet artistry. Before loss entered the legend, there existed long seasons filled simply with learning, practice, and shared peace. These calmer chapters remind us that extraordinary journeys often begin with ordinary devotion. Gentle repetition, careful listening, and steady attention quietly prepared the musician for every path that would eventually unfold before him. Greek mythology often presents music as a bridge between different parts of existence. Songs accompanied celebrations, honored the gods, marked changing seasons, and comforted moments of mourning. Orpheus came to embody all of these possibilities within a single figure. His melodies belonged equally to joy and quiet reflection, never forcing emotion, but allowing it to unfold naturally. Such balance gave his legend an enduring gentleness that continued through countless generations of storytellers. The peaceful confidence surrounding Orpheus before later hardships reflected a wider Greek belief that harmony deserved careful protection. Beauty required attention, kindness required patience, and skill required continual practice. Nothing in these traditions suggested hurried greatness. Instead, excellence appeared through steady dedication repeated over many quiet days. His music became memorable precisely because it reflected this gentle rhythm, allowing calm to settle wherever the old stories imagined its soft echoes traveling. Before thoughts ever turned toward the distant kingdom ruled by Hades and Persephone, Orpheus belonged fully to the bright world above. Sunlight crossed marble temples, gentle winds moved through olive groves, and songs drifted across familiar valleys. These peaceful beginnings gave lasting meaning to everything that followed. The memory of quiet landscapes, balanced melodies, and patient beauty remained woven into his legend, preserving the calm heart of the story from its very first notes. Orpheus began the quiet walk away from the deep kingdom beneath the earth. The path stretched gently before him, lined with ancient stone and softened by an endless twilight that never hurried toward morning. He carried his lyre with steady hands, though he did not play it now. The music that had opened the gates had already completed its gentle work. Around him, the silent halls remained calm, neither welcoming nor hostile. Every careful step reflected patience, as though even the stones understood that some journeys ask only for stillness, measured breath, and trust carried without sudden movement. Behind Orpheus came Eurydice, moving softly according to the command that had been given. The ancient agreement required that she remain unseen until both travelers reached the upper world. In Greek tradition, this promise rested not upon speed or strength, but upon quiet obedience. The silence between them became almost like another companion walking the same road. Nothing disturbed the peaceful rhythm of their progress, except the faint echo of footsteps fading into the vast chambers carved beneath the earth, where countless ages seemed to rest without urgency. The halls of Hades were imagined by ancient poets as places removed from ordinary time. Rivers flowed with solemn purpose, and pale fields stretched beyond distant slopes. Yet Orpheus remained upon the appointed road, keeping his thoughts fixed ahead. His heart naturally longed to know that Eurydice still followed, but longing itself became another quiet burden to carry. The journey asked him to believe without seeing, much as sailors trusted familiar stars hidden behind passing clouds, until the night cleared once again. Far above, the living world continued through its ordinary seasons. Olive trees swayed beneath gentle winds, shepherds guided their flocks, and sunlight crossed familiar hills. None of these peaceful scenes reached the silent passages below. Orpheus walked within another realm, where every stone preserved an older stillness. His footsteps neither hurried nor slowed. They followed a calm rhythm that matched the steady hope resting inside him, as though each measured pace quietly honored both the world of the living and the mysterious kingdom beneath it. The gods had spoken with unusual mercy. Hades and Persephone allowed what few mortals had ever received, the chance to guide a beloved soul back into sunlight. Their condition remained simple and unwavering. Orpheus accepted it with sincere devotion, knowing that divine promises carried great weight in Greek stories. The quiet road became not merely a path between places, but a gentle test of faithful endurance. Every moment invited calm restraint instead of certainty, asking him to continue without reaching beyond the limits that had been set. No voices interrupted the passage. Even the air seemed to settle into peaceful silence. Orpheus remembered the melodies that had softened hearts beyond ordinary expectation. His songs had quieted sorrow itself for a brief time, yet music now gave way to silence. There are moments in many ancient tales when words and melodies rest, allowing patience alone to guide the traveler. So he carried the lyre gently against his side, while the unseen road unfolded with quiet dignity before him. The shadows gradually grew lighter, though only by the smallest measure. Somewhere ahead, the border between darkness and daylight slowly approached. Orpheus noticed the subtle change without allowing excitement to quicken his pace. The ancient poets often described transitions with careful simplicity, letting small details reveal great meaning. A faint brightness upon distant stone became enough to suggest that another world waited beyond. The quiet hope within him remained steady, carried forward by disciplined trust rather than sudden joy. Memory accompanied Orpheus as faithfully as any traveling companion. He remembered green valleys, flowing streams, and peaceful evenings where music drifted beneath open skies. Those gentle recollections did not distract him. Instead, they offered quiet comfort while he continued through the calm halls below the earth. The contrast between remembered sunlight and present shadow made neither place seem harsh. Each belonged to its own order within the ancient imagination, where life and death stood as neighboring realms connected by sacred boundaries. As the path continued upward, the silence itself seemed to deepen. Nothing hurried the ancient stones, and nothing urged the traveler forward except quiet purpose. Orpheus walked with the same gentle care that had carried him from the beginning. Every measured footstep reflected respect for the divine command. Greek mythology often presents endurance as something calm rather than dramatic, a strength expressed through patient consistency. Along this tranquil road, each peaceful moment became part of that enduring rhythm. The boundary between worlds remained almost invisible, revealed only through gradual change. The air seemed lighter, and distant brightness rested softly ahead. Orpheus continued without speaking. His thoughts remained gentle, never abandoning the promise that guided every step. Around him, the ancient halls retained their solemn beauty, shaped by timeless silence instead of fear. The journey itself became a quiet act of devotion, reminding later generations that steadfastness often unfolds through ordinary moments carried with extraordinary care. The story of Orpheus has long invited reflection because it moves with remarkable gentleness. Even within the realm of the dead, the tale rarely depends upon battles or loud triumphs. Instead, it follows careful footsteps, patient waiting, and enduring affection. The slow return through the shadowed halls carries this peaceful spirit. Every part of the road encourages calm attention to small details. Distant echoes, ancient stone, quiet breathing, and the steady hope that accompanies a faithful traveler toward the surface of the earth. Ancient listeners would have recognized this path as more than a physical journey. It reflected the delicate balance between mortal desire and divine order. Orpheus accepted that balance with quiet humility as he continued toward the world above. The halls behind him remained peaceful, preserving countless forgotten stories within their silent depths. Ahead, unseen daylight slowly widened. Yet every moment of the ascent belonged equally to the calm stillness below, allowing both realms to meet within one measured walk. The lyre rested quietly against Orpheus as though it too understood the value of silence. Earlier its strings had persuaded gods, spirits, and nature itself. Now its greatest contribution lay in remaining still. Greek myths often honor the proper moment for every action, whether speech, music, or peaceful restraint. The quiet instrument became a symbol of harmony carried without performance, accompanying its owner through the final stretch of the solemn passage beneath the earth. Near the upper reaches of the passage, gentle light touched the stone with increasing warmth. The slow journey through the shadowed halls approached its natural end without haste. Orpheus continued exactly as he had begun, calm, attentive, and respectful of the sacred promise placed before him. The ancient landscape remained serene behind him, preserving its endless silence beneath the earth. Above waited the familiar world of hills, trees, and open sky, while the peaceful road itself became an enduring memory within Greek mythology. Long after the songs of Orpheus had faded into quiet memory, the people of ancient Greece continued to speak of him with gentle admiration. He was remembered not for victory in battle or the founding of cities, but for the uncommon gift of bringing calm through music. His lyre became a symbol of harmony between living beings, the natural world, and the unseen order believed to guide the universe. In stories told across generations, his melodies remained softer than thunder and stronger than anger, offering a peaceful image that endured even as centuries slowly passed. Greek poets often placed Orpheus among the finest musicians ever imagined. His art reflected an ideal that beauty could gently shape the heart without force. Music accompanied festivals, prayers, and family gatherings throughout Greece, making the figure of Orpheus familiar wherever songs were valued. His legend suggested that careful listening and measured expression carried their own quiet strength. Rather than overwhelming the world around him, he moved within it with patience, allowing each note to settle naturally into the silence that followed. The lyre itself held lasting importance in Greek culture, associated with learning, poetry, and thoughtful reflection. Because Orpheus mastered the instrument so completely, later generations often pictured him whenever they imagined perfect musical skill. His story became connected with the peaceful discipline of practicing an art over many years. The steady rhythm of strings and careful attention to harmony reflected ideals admired throughout the ancient world, where balance was often considered a sign of wisdom rather than speed or excitement. Ancient writers sometimes linked Orpheus with sacred teachings that encouraged purity, moderation, and respect for the divine order. These traditions, often called Orphic, blended myth with spiritual reflection. Although historians continue to study how these beliefs developed, the name of Orpheus remained connected with thoughtful living and gentle reverence. In this way, his memory extended beyond music alone. He represented a quiet search for meaning carried out through contemplation, ritual, and the peaceful hope that the soul belonged to something enduring. Artists across many centuries found inspiration in the calm dignity of Orpheus. Vase painters, sculptors, and poets returned to his image, not because every detail of his life was certain, but because his character invited reflection. They portrayed him seated with his instrument or standing peacefully within nature. These images emphasized stillness instead of movement, allowing the viewer to imagine music continuing beyond what could be seen. His memory became less about a single moment and more about a lasting atmosphere of quiet harmony. The landscapes connected with Orpheus also carried gentle meaning. Hills, forests, rivers, and distant mountains formed the quiet setting of many stories about him. These places reflected the close relationship the ancient Greeks felt with the natural world. Rather than separating music from nature, the legends suggested that both belonged together. Wind moving through leaves, flowing water, and birdsong blended naturally with the imagined sound of the lyre, creating a peaceful vision that remained comforting through countless retellings. As mythology passed from one generation to another, Orpheus became a symbol of gentle endurance. His story contained sorrow, yet memory gradually softened its sharpest edges. What remained was an image of devotion to music and to beauty itself. The ancient imagination preserved not only dramatic events, but also quiet virtues that could be admired in everyday life. Patience, kindness, and careful attention to harmony continued to surround the name of Orpheus long after individual storytellers had disappeared. Roman poets later embraced the figure of Orpheus as well, carrying his memory beyond Greece into a broader Mediterranean world. While each writer added personal touches, the central image stayed remarkably consistent. Orpheus remained the musician whose art revealed the gentle power of beauty. Across changing languages and changing centuries, his quiet presence endured. His lyre continued to symbolize thoughtful creativity, reminding readers that calm expression could leave a deeper impression than displays of force or ambition. In later philosophy and literature, Orpheus often appeared as a bridge between imagination and wisdom. His music represented the ordering of scattered emotions into peaceful balance. This idea echoed wider Greek admiration for proportion and harmony in architecture, poetry, and civic life. Even when his story entered new traditions, the peaceful rhythm associated with his name remained recognizable. The enduring image was never hurried. Instead, it invited slow reflection, quiet listening, and appreciation for the gentle patterns found throughout nature. The memory of Orpheus also encouraged respect for storytelling itself. Myths were preserved through careful recitation, allowing each generation to inherit voices from the distant past. By remembering a musician through spoken words and written poetry, the Greeks quietly celebrated the lasting power of art. Every retelling became another gentle thread connecting present listeners with ancient tradition. In this way, Orpheus continued to sing symbolically through memory rather than through sound alone. Many surviving works of ancient art leave generous spaces around the figure of Orpheus, emphasizing calm instead of spectacle. The surrounding landscape often appears orderly and balanced, reflecting the peaceful mood attached to his legend. This visual language echoed the belief that harmony could exist between humanity and the wider world. Whether represented in sculpture, painted pottery, or poetry, Orpheus seemed most at home in places where silence and music could comfortably exist together. Even today, Orpheus remains one of the most recognizable figures in Greek mythology because his story speaks quietly across cultures. Readers continue to find meaning in his dedication to music and in the gentle dignity that surrounds his memory. Rather than belonging only to the distant past, his legend continues to inspire peaceful reflection. The enduring image is not one of noise or conquest, but of careful artistry carried with humility through an ever-changing world. The hills of Greece still hold an atmosphere that recalls the landscapes imagined in old myths. Sunlight moves slowly across stone, olive trees sway with the breeze, and distant mountains remain unchanged through passing generations. Within such scenery, it is easy to understand why poets connected music with the natural world. The memory of Orpheus fits gently into these quiet places, becoming part of the rhythm of earth, sky, and peaceful seasonal change. The lasting legacy of Orpheus rests in a simple idea cherished throughout the ancient world. Beauty offered with sincerity can bring peace where harshness cannot. His songs belong to myth, yet their meaning continues through symbols, poetry, and quiet remembrance. The lyre, the open landscape, and the calm figure of the musician remain woven together in Greek tradition. As the story settles into silence, the peaceful memory of Orpheus continues like a gentle echo, carried softly across the timeless hills of Greece.